there's like some layers there.
I see.
Yeah, I was very proud of that. I was doing some exercising. I'm like, I want a shirt that says adjust and see how it works.
On these nuts.
We should be live any second now.
Oh, should we?
Yeah, we should be.
Is that what we should be?
That's swell.
Can't we?
My phone's beeping. Why is it beeping?
I see
Is
it.
because we're live?
I see it.
All right.
I don't.
Where's mute on my phone?
Are we twitching as well?
We should
we
be on
live?
everything. Yep.
I'm looking. Yep. We are live on Twitch.
Are we? Okay.
Yeah.
Let me.
I'm
let me
going
get
to
it pulled
ride my
up.
mute button
Abra.
so I don't sneeze all over my microphone. All right, GP, whenever you're ready.
I should really follow the channel. Let me subscribe real quick. Oh, there it is. All right. I was thinking about this the other day, guys. I'm very excited for this episode. Given the subject matter, I don't know. It's going to be great. It's going to be a ride. Now, we've made numerous comments that none of us really have an A game. We've made the press B joke too many times. So, to me, my semen, today all over.
Don't do that over the intro.
Look, I can't clean this mess up. No, not again.
That's what she said.
I was so proud when I thought of that line. I texted family members about it, and oddly enough, two of them had the exact same response. How did you get this number? Anyway, everybody, hello and welcome to Press B to Cancel. My name is Guy Prime. I am joined with three other guys of the 5-member dais, and whoever Sinistar is pointing to off screen. And let's go around and say hi. So we'll start with you, Sinistar. How you doing?
I'm doing well. How are you?
I'm all right. And Sick Jake joining us today. How are you, sir?
I'm just glad it's Friday, GP. Did you know it was Friday? Sometime after midnight, the day switches over to the one that starts with F, and that we record on Fridays.
Wild.
Yeah.
Absolutely wild. And the Jean Grey to my Madeline Pryor, Chardmonk.
Hi. Yeah. No, it's Friday, Jake. It's Friday. It's Friday all day, as they say.
I see.
If he's Madeline Pryor, does that make him the Goblin Queen?
No, I would be the Madeline Pryor. Mostly because I have the outfit, and Chard is the Jean Grey. And I see you both showing love for your favorite soda beverage. We'll say, I don't want to say the name, so we'll just showing off that DP. Well done.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Stop. I'm already sick enough. I don't need you guys
Loving
flashing that swill. It's don't need that right now.
Sinstress, hello. Everybody in chat, thank you for joining us. So typically we are and correct me if I'm mistaken here, we are a retro video game podcast consortium. And we're switching it up today. We've been wanting to do this one for about a month, but we're just now getting to it due to scheduling conflicts. And we are discussing X-Men 97, which, for anybody who doesn't know, is the continuation of the X-Men animated series from the early to mid 90s, which I think ran from 92 or 93 up until 96, 97. There's a lot to get to, so we're just going to jump into it. Actually, no, before we jump into it, talking about the episodes, I want to go around and ask everybody, who was your favorite X-Men growing up? I'll go last. Chardmonk, Courage.
But I'm a big fan of Gambit for a long time. He's a fan favorite in this house. And Nightcrawler is a close run-up. But Archangel is probably top of my list. I actually have a Funko of Archangel.
Those are what a cool storyline for Archangel. So I guess we're not doing our favorite. We're gonna do like the top 3 or 4.
I'm just gonna those are my favorite altogether.
It is so hard to pick. I'm with you.
Gold Squad, the gold team.
Yeah. And then Sick Jake, how about you? Who are your favorites growing up, or who is your favorite now?
It's easy to pick just one. You just got to focus and be determined and just pick the one. It's easy.
So name your 5.
Cosplay as Apocalypse.
So go ahead and name your 5.
I am the dictator, apparently. That hasn't been thrown around in a while. No, Bishop. Bishop is actually my favorite. and he didn't get a whole lot of screen time in the cartoon, but the episodes he was in with the Age of Apocalypse stuff was some of my favorite X-Men stuff.
Was it Warren Worthington? Was that his name?
Yes.
Worthington.
Worthington. Yeah. Something like
Yeah.
The double dubs.
Okay, so Bishop for Sick Jake, and then Sinistar. How about you?
So I am going to take a pointer from Chard. So my number one is Nightcrawler. It's always been Nightcrawler, but, and I don't know, does this count as an X-Men or is it in the universe and it's okay? My next two are in the universe. Juggernaut. I have always loved Juggernaut.
Okay.
And of course, Deadpool.
Yeah, I will say,
Deadpool was
mutant adjacent.
I know.
He's not a mutant. He's what we call a mutate, I believe is the word.
Well, it depends on which story you follow.
Isn't he the same as
like
Wolverine?
He's
Wolverine's powers, yeah. Through the
depending on the comic, there was a comic where Deadpool had his head taken off and regrew a body and regrew a head, and there was two Deadpool. Yeah. So I mean, I think I don't know that Wolverine can do that.
I don't know.
We've never tried.
But yeah, this is a conversation about X-Men. There's no room for comic book lore here today. So I will say this. I find it interesting that you two had said Nightcrawler. I'm going to say it this way. Playing the arcade game, my favorite character was Colossus. Just a really cool character, really stand-up guy. Yeah. I don't really care for the way they portrayed him in the Deadpool movies. I mean, he was the foil, which is funny because he's metal. But in the arcade game, I liked him. If I could have anybody's superpower, I have always chosen Nightcrawler. Like to be able to teleport. Yeah, insanely cool. You can accomplish whatever you need. You can teleport.
I don't know if we're going to talk, what's your superpower of choice? I'm going Xavier. Come on.
No, because he's got the whole ethical side of it.
No, I didn't say his ethics. I said his superpower.
His superpower is his ethics.
I don't like
having tinnitus on a grand scale. If you just wouldn't be able to get a night's sleep,
I don't like when people talk normally. Why would I want to hear what they're saying? Too?
Really, it's about the mind control, my friends. It's about the mind control.
It's less about the third part, like the looking in, and more about the just knowing. I have to say Storm, though. If I'm being 100% honest, I think Storm is one of, if not the, just coolest characters. They kind of did her dirty in this X-Men 97 series. We'll talk about that as we get to it. But
what about Rogue after she has absorbed Marvel, Captain Marvel's powers? I mean, at that point, is she not the most powerful?
Okay, well, no, if we're talking about most powerful, clearly it's Morph.
Oh, that's fair.
Morph can do anything and anyone.
All of them.
Yeah.
Also the name of my sex tape.
Nice. Morph can do them all. No, and Morph was cool. They kind of used him improperly in the series. We'll get to it. There's a lot to get to. So, did you guys grow up watching the X-Men animated series from the 90s? I certainly did.
Oh, yeah. For sure. Absolutely. Okay. Yeah.
One of the things that stands out is the number of multi-part, multi-episode arcs that they do. I believe one of them, maybe it was Dark Phoenix, was like a 5-parter. Days of Future Past had a solid 3 or 4. And they did that with this new season, for better or for worse. I think they pulled it off. But this was such a groundbreaking show between this and Ninja Turtles and Spider-Man, the animated Spider-Man from the 90s. We were eating good as kids.
Big fan, yes.
That way.
Yes.
So X-Men 97 picks up the day after the original series ends. We're led to believe that Charles Xavier has died, even though the way the show ended in the 90s, he leaves Earth with his girlfriend.
Spoilercast, folks. Spoilercast.
Yeah. I'll add to the subject afterwards, but yeah.
Yeah, we're not holding back. We're just going to go full in.
Yeah.
Yeah, nobody's going to convince you to watch X-Men 97 if you haven't decided to already. We hope you have, because we're going to talk all over it, because we've been waiting for a month to talk about everything about this show.
Yeah.
So
maybe next season we should do an episode per, like whenever they come out, we should be a little bit more immediately reactive. But anyway, that's so hard with everybody's schedules. But anyway, we're going hard with this. We're not trying to recruit new fans or convert anybody to X-Mendom. But here we are talking about. So episode 1, called To Me, My X-Men, which was brilliantly written for a number of reasons, but the title comes back multiple times. I will talk last on this one. What do you all think? Let's start with you, Chardmonk.
Well, seeing as the show hadn't been on since '97, hence the title, it took me a few minutes to kind of get we're like literally diving into this. This isn't like we're rehashing it with different animation. It's the start from the beginning. We are literally jumping right back into it where we left off. So it took me a minute to like wrap my brain around Xavier was missing and this, that, and he was presumed dead and all this shit. And I had to kind of go back a little bit and do a little wiki link. And then when I read it, I was like, that's right. He had the virus. He went up with the space aliens because they said that they could cure him. Maybe we don't know. And I remember then I was like, how I pulled from my old useless brain that holds information that's not valid or useful, and found all of that. That Rolodex was full and rife with information, unlike my tax information, how much I owe my mortgage, or any other emergency contact numbers. But I can tell you all about the other stuff in X-Men 97's beginning. So I thought that was really cool that they didn't stop. It just, the show literally kept on going. And it was so I want to say accurate. Accurate's probably not a good word, but it was so accurate that I recalled way back when how it ended and how we got to where we are today. So it was kind of crazy to kind of, connect the dots with that.
Yeah. The show kind of assumes you've done the homework and that you're a returning fan, or, they've teleprompted what they're doing so far in advance. If you didn't know anything about the history of it, they certainly gave you the chance to go back and rewatch it or watch it for the first time.
So I kind of want to go next if I can jump in, because
Absolutely.
you just kind of segued into into actually my take on it, because I did not grow up watching the comic or the animated series. I had not actually watched any of it, so I jumped in blind, and so it was actually a little jarring to me. Because my experience with X-Men was some comics as a child. My younger brother had, all of the trading cards, etc. So I knew, powers and all of that stuff. And then of course the movies. And so, of course, Xavier's dead, right? I come in and Xavier's dead, right? And then all of a sudden, Xavier has basically left the X-Men to Magneto, and I'm like, what the fuck, bro?
Yeah.
But if you know their relationship and they're like,
oh yeah,
will they, won't they? I don't know. However you want to say it, it was a very, I would say, accurate move. One that, of course, everybody knew would not end well. But I don't know. There's so many things I want to say. I'm going to hold on to it for a second.
Sure. For me, it honestly, the first episode, I struggled a little bit with. Since we're on a spoiler cast, by the end of this season, I was full in and loving the shit out of it. But that first episode, I was struggling a little bit with the caricature acting because it's a comic, it's a cartoon, right? And so I was like, this is a little over the top, this is a little campy. But then of course I was like, no, I need to embrace the camp, because like that's part of the joy there. And so once I kind of got there, it really picked up.
So I imagine this. Imagine you are somebody who grew up loving reading Dr. Seuss books, and then you want to kind of start making your own Dr. Seuss inspired series. So you start writing like him. That's going to come off as an effort, a concerted, decided effort to mimic a different style. But it can't be the exact because you are not Dr. Seuss. I kind of think that's how they did it this way. This show is written by people who grew up loving this show. And it's not X-Men from the 90s nowadays. It's still 1997 there. And in the, we just got done, you said, watching, I think, some of the episodes from the original series. That's just how they wrote it. That's how they did it. Jubilee was a very specific character for that period of time. So to bring her back and just to assume they never left, we're still right there in 1997. You're right, it comes off that way, but I think if you go in with that kind of lens over the viewing experience, it becomes easier to swallow, as opposed to it's so over the top, it's taking me out of the show. So that's how you're wrong, Jake. Let's. I'm kidding. I love you so much, Sinistar. Jake, what do you got for us? What do you think?
For me, what I found interesting was I love the original cartoon. I was definitely one of those Fox kids. I used to watch every Saturday morning, all of those shows. But the thing I remember about X-Men is, as much as I love the most of that series, the last season, I think they changed animation studios, but there's a massive drop in quality of the animation in the last season. The whole arc with the Phalanx. I mean, while the plot could have been interesting, I felt like there was budget problems. So I didn't really like the last season of X-Men. So when this one just kind of took off from that, I kind of forgot that season existed. So I also had to go to Wikipedia and kind of refresh my memory on the show. I do love the show, but that last season was not a good way to end it. But I'm glad that, while I appreciate it's jarring, once it starts going, as long as you're familiar with X-Men, the characters, because I never really read the comics as a kid. I only have exposure like Sinistar to the movies and then also the TV show and of course the games. So I still felt like it was pretty good. I'll tell you though, when you realize it's full on 90s still is when they changed Magneto's costume, because man, is that ever a 90s ass
we will
costume.
get to that.
Yeah.
And the top 3 reasons I will be that Magneto for Halloween.
When does Peter Dinklage show up?
All right. So a real quick aside, I feel like the episode 1 was a complete flex. Because yes, Jake, you are remembering correctly, the final season of X-Men, I think originally they had canceled it, and they said, well, if we can make it for this budget, and I might be wrong on this, but I think that's the story. If we can make it come in at this budget, can we do our final thing? And they said, sure. They hired or subcontracted out a separate, much cheaper animation division, and the dip in quality was obvious, even as a kid. But for anybody who doesn't know, right before Xavier gets sick and leaves Earth, the whole thing is Magneto is about to start his final push to like wage war on the humans and end the whole thing. So you really think that's what's going to happen. And then Xavier's like, I'm leaving, guys. Bye. Tell him I died. And so that's where we enter the series. If you're thinking about Magneto, who I really do maintain is the primary character of the series of X-Men 97, that's where he was. He was just about to take over the world. And he put that on pause because of his love for Charles Xavier and his respect for him. So that's the only thing that could stop him from killing all the humans is Charles.
Oh, shit. Tell all my friends are dead. Oh, fuck. All right, I ain't going to kill the humans now. I'm cool. We're cool.
Right, yeah. But not even all my friends, just the one guy. So that's where we start off. And then, I think the animation style for 97, like I said, it's a flex. It's showing off what they can do, how consistent, can we make the size and the scope of things. Like if you go back and watch the original one, the animation in the 90s, it was rough. It's hard to go back and watch that unless you're just a diehard. Are the Sentinels taller than a building, smaller than a building? Can they shapeshift? No, they're just not drawn consistently.
Is it like the original Transformers series where like they change color all the time?
Yeah.
Okay, choose your next words very carefully.
Look,
listen.
No. That might be my favorite childhood
100%
cartoon. Seriously. But that first season, like they couldn't figure out what color each character was.
I work in manufacturing. We build a lot of things in different sizes, so I'm totally fine with the Sentinels being various shapes and sizes throughout their life cycle.
Sure, why not?
Look, some iPhones are 7 inches, some are 5. I mean, who are we to judge the size of somebody's Sentinel?
My immersion.
So, okay, let's do a couple more bullet points.
Here we have the child-sized Sentinel. He's
cute. Can I just say, GP, about the animation quality, though? I'll agree with you that X-Men 97's animation quality is pretty good.
It's gorgeous.
But something felt a little bit off when I compared it to the original, and I went back and looked at the original, and there is differences in some of the character designs. Jubilee looks a bit different. Not saying it's bad. It's probably for the better. But there's some definitely animation, like character design choices are different, and the shading is a little bit different. One of the things I liked about the original show is they really went with the blue as a shadow color, kind of like the comics. They did a lot more of that in the original animation style than they do in the new one. It's not bad, but it's definitely more different than I expected. But then for something like that, on the other hand, you have the recreated intro, which they fucking nailed, right? Widescreen
Yeah.
recreation from frame by frame of the intro from the original. So good.
The one show I will never skip the opening for, and they switched up every episode. There's either a new
Yes.
roster or they
Yep.
made subtle changes to the background characters. You know, after we'll get to that. So much detail, so much more.
That song slaps.
It
does.
fucking slaps. Do you know who wrote that?
Your mom?
No.
Oh shit, you got me good. No, it's the dude who wrote the theme song for the Power Rangers, for the North American Power Rangers.
Is it
If I remember
really?
that correctly.
That,
Forgive me, I can't
tracks.
remember his name. It's not
Yeah.
Rob Liefeld, but nerds. Okay, so yes, favorite points. I'll go first on this one. When they go and take down Master Mold, which, by the way, the Venn diagram overlapping of them just picking up things from the original 90s run to go and fight Master Mold, one of the big bads, and just demolish shit. I talked about Storm earlier. Her whole tornado of sand hitting it with lightning into glass shards. So fucking OP. Cyclops landing using his optic blast.
Optic
And
blast.
then they showed us that to me, my X-Men line, they showed us that in the preview. So then when you hear the title of the first episode is that, you think it's in reference to that, but it's not. Big reveal at the end. So fucking dope. What'd you guys like about the first one? As far as like action sequences.
Let me start off with, like, I really appreciate how they, like, the guy who wrote this, Bo DeMaio, is one of the main writers of this show, and he has a real respect for the character's powers. And like, it would have been so easy for there to be an X-Men cartoon in 2024 that treated a Cyclops' blast as freaking energy beams. Because that's the most common misconception, is that they're energy blasts. They're not. They're from the punch dimension. They're kinetic blasts. They're actually physical force thing. But only nerds like us would fucking know that.
His eyes are portals to a whole other universe.
Yeah, that's his
He
power.
made it with
That's
that
it's the
blast.
punch dimension. But so when he
The
uses
windows
that
to
concussive
Punchland.
blast, the punch land. Right? But when he uses that to like cushion the fall, how epic and how cool is that? And same with Storm, right? Like you explained, every sequence with Storm and her powers, I think even compared to the original show, they made her, and they literally call her this, a goddess in this show. She is one of the most powerful mutants in the entire canon, and they definitely did a good job showing all that stuff with her scenes. It's just really a great respect for the powers of the characters.
I have to point out that, with his eyes being essentially portals into another dimension, opportunity missed from aliens. Look into my eye.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sure.
The eyes are the windows to Punchland.
That's right.
He's a perfect killing machine.
Also, Punchland sounds like an absolutely awful amusement park.
Sounds like the best amusement park. What are you talking about?
You've never
Well,
been.
it's worse.
Goo-goosh.
Punchland
never
or Disney
gone.
World or SeaWorld? SeaWorld or Punchland? Which is the
SeaWorld?
worst part?
And then
Punchland.
I'm sorry, but Wolverine piggybacking on, or no, sorry, other way. Remy LeBeau jumping on Wolverine and supercharging his claw. Like, come on, that's some
Is that what that
really
was?
next level cool shit.
Are you sure
Yes.
that's what that
He
was?
used- yeah.
I just thought he was running behind
He used his
him.
kinetic power. No. He used
No.
his kinetic power and charged up his shit and fucking blasted it. This fucking-
So cool.
Yeah.
And yeah, I do want to touch on this. We won't go much into it. Bo DeMaio, the showrunner for the first season, I guess developed season 2 and potentially parts of season 3 before being let go. I don't really want to get into the speculations as to why. I don't think that's really anything that needs to happen on this channel.
Yeah.
But
here's the
whatever it
thing-
was,
Yeah.
mad respect for how the first season went. I have no other comment than that, but it was so
Yeah,
good.
I'll agree with your take, GP. Like, we don't know. He hasn't commented on it. Disney has not commented on it. I mean, all there is speculation. But until one of the two decides to comment on it, what can we do? So all we just know that he did a fantastic job. Whether he's a decent person in real life, who the hell knows?
Or whatever the reason. Yeah,
we don't know. So,
I'm with you.
but I think I do say it's gonna be a shame, though. I really hope, I'm crossing fingers, that season 2 and season 3 are as good as the first season, because this show was so much more better than I ever thought it would be, and more than I think X-Men, probably the cartoon, needed to be in this decade. It's a weird thing for this to be rebooted out of all things from Disney.
I hope it opens the doors to, if they wanted to bring back Spider-Man from the 90s and start that up again, other things like that.
They introduced those characters in later episodes. You had Captain America, you had Peter Parker.
Yeah,
they were in there as almost kind of like, maybe if this goes well, we'll just kind of see these guys in there.
I was gonna say I like that it kind of now that Fox and Marvel Studios are like talking again, or well, part of the same thing underneath Disney.
Yeah.
I really kind of like that I really felt like Deadpool was going to be the true bridge between all of them, like the new Deadpool movie. But the cartoon was like, no, hold my beer.
Yeah.
We're going to bring it all together.
We're already here. We're already talking.
But how much does that say they really believe in the Deadpool and Wolverine movie if they allowed X-Men 97 to come out before then? Because that being the most recent kind of MCU adjacent thing that we have, and I still think Deadpool and Wolverine is probably going to knock our pants off in a new way.
Here's hoping.
To say we have to follow up this with that, that's a tall order. I think they can deliver on it. So I'm hopeful.
Yeah.
Right.
I didn't have much high hopes for this. I mean, I secretly wanted to be good. I love the original. And like I really liked Marvel's What If animation. I thought that was pretty decent, at least the first season. So I was kind of hoping it would be good, but it turned out so much better than What If. It's so much better than a lot of the other Marvel TV shows, honestly. So like I'll watch this one again and again. I probably can't say the same for Winter Soldier and Falcon, for example.
Oh, yeah. Okay. What are we missing from the first episode? Let me hear from you, Charge.
I'll be honest. I'm gonna take a different approach than you guys did, because the fight scene was cool and jumping in with the mega mold and all that stuff was cool. But I actually MP'd Jake after like 1 or 2 episodes, and I was kind of like, meh. I don't know. It's not grabbing me. I'm gonna keep watching. It's whatever. It's a lot, and I kind of feel for Sinistar, because it just throws you back into the shit. Like there's no last time, there's nothing. You don't know what's going on. So if you come in blind and you're just like, oh, I like X-Men, let's watch the 97 version with no idea of what happened in the past, you don't know what's going on. So it takes a little bit for to like connect, but when the show gets going, I want to say like 3 episodes in, fucking hooked after that. Then I was like, okay, I want a piece of this. Like, I want to keep going.
Getting better and better.
It kept climbing and climbing. Yeah, there was 1 episode later that I was like, does this need to be here? But we'll cover that in a minute. But everything else that was, related to the Sentinels and the Big Bad and Mr. Sinister being there and all this other stuff was just really, really hooked me in. But if you don't know who, Jean Grey's twin is, you didn't know about that stuff from before, you're like, Goblin Queen? Who? Like it's just chaos.
She had to be sitting on these alternate identities somewhere, because you don't just find out you're a clone, but you don't know at what point that started, or you're the real person, but still we don't know when. And then just say, you know what? I'm Madeline Pryor, aka the Goblin Queen. Here's my outfit. Like somewhere in the back of her brain grapes, she was growing this shit, because that's way too specific.
Yeah, just to call yourself the Goblin Queen.
Like,
who does that?
It's time to put this on. I'm gonna get my black leathers out. Let's go. You're
Which, by the way,
where the fuck did this come from?
Yeah.
Like starting next week, guys, I want you guys to start calling me the Raptor Emperor. That's my new name. Don't judge. I'm gonna wear a hat.
I want to see your costume, then we'll judge.
Creature, and then like nobility title. There you go.
Right.
The unicorn jester.
Were you guys kind of thrown off? Sorry, Sinistar. Were you in the first episode when you first see Morph? My first reaction was, "Who the fuck is that guy?" I didn't know who that was because they changed. I mean, I'm fine with the changes, but I didn't. And I guess in the gap between Xavier, going off to space, Morph came to the terms as what he actually looks like. But I was so used to his haggard, black-eyed face from the original show. It's a little weird.
No, I like that they did that. I mean, it speaks a lot to the representation of, minority communities. I don't know the proper way of saying that. I like the way they handled Morph. I wish they would have given more to do ultimately than just being kind of a cameo factory.
Yeah, he was just kind of background noise a little bit.
But
like
it also speaks to something Magneto had said in the movies to Mystique. Let me see the real you, and then the real you. And, or Charles, I believe in Mystique, had a conversation where he says, well, you can look like them or whatever. And she says, but I shouldn't have to. And I kind of apply that to what Morph's going through. Because if that's Morph's, self, absolutely throw that in there. Be that. And I like that we're in at least a little bit better of a place nowadays. than we were back then to address that sort of issue and have that representation. But
Well, that was
they
the great thing with
relegated them
X-Men.
to a
Because
background.
in
Say it
the
again.
80s, in the 80s, the comics were always about pushing things like, it was basically an allegory for racism, right? And homophobia
Sure.
in the 80s. And this is how
Yeah.
they got it out in comics. And you had some of that in the 90s where it's still kind of taboo to talk about some of the stuff, even in the 90s. But now we've at least made some steps towards, being better with these things. And then they kind of go further with it in this show. Like they basically more than once kind of allude to Morph and Wolverine having a kind of like a side thing, right?
Oh yeah,
Like a
Morph's orientation seems very fluid,
Yeah,
which I think is great.
And you never
Yeah.
would have had that in the 90s. There's no way. So
No,
it's great
and
to
they-
see
they-
that they've moved that needle forward, right?
And again, as somebody who's not from the community, all I can say is I feel the way they handled Morph's pronouns and referred to them as a they, them, and all of that. I think that is a wonderful illustration for people who are kind of not as familiar with the movement and the culture as it's happening and developing. I think that was a wonderful way to introduce people to
Yeah,
that
for
sort of thing. So,
For sure.
but yeah, it's just considering how completely OP Morph is. Why'd they do that? But that said, every time they brought in the Hulk or somebody, I was like, oh,
So
that's
is
great.
that canon though?
But
Like that's his power? Like, because he turns into the Juggernaut at one point, and the Juggernaut's powers were not necessarily physical. Well, I mean, they are, but it was more that he's
They're
magical, and his strength is because he's magical. Like, is that?
But he
Morph
pulls
do
the
that?
power of whatever person he's taking on. I believe,
I went and
Okay.
looked up
regardless of where it
because
comes from.
I had to go look up in the the X-Men wiki Morph's powers because I'm like, this seems OP. And no, according to canon,
No,
it's OP. Like
Yeah.
Yeah.
it's OP.
And that's wonderful. I think
Like, if
that's
he
absolutely
takes
great.
Cyclops' power, he can't do the blast. But if it's a physical based power, he can do that, right? Is that the idea?
Okay, so Morph became the Hulk and was able to smash like the Hulk. But if you
Right.
were to make Morph bleed as the Hulk, I don't think he gamma irradiates
right.
Morph's
Okay.
blood.
Right.
I don't think that's what they
Right.
do. So
It's more of a power
yeah.
thing than like
it's
a all
suspicion
the
of
Physical
this-
properties. Yeah.
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 But what a cool. I don't even want to say power set because it's not cool. It's fucking OP. You guys are exactly right. But what else? Oh, so real quick, just to kind of wrap up the first episode, as we're 32 minutes into the episode, it ends with Magneto showing up saying, "Charles left everything to me, the school," and then the final line spoken by Magneto is, "He left it all to me, my X-Men," kind of turning that Cyclops line in the title of the episode on its ear. To transition or segue it, Sinistar, into the second episode.
Segued.
One thing I appreciate, because I love Wolverine as a character, love Hugh Jackman, love the comics and all of that. I am so happy that we are starting to kind of get away from Wolverine as the main character. And they do it well. I would be okay if they had Wolverine around more, but I'm happy that Wolverine is not the main focus on all this. My kind of gripe here is, in the movies, if it's not about Wolverine, it's about Magneto. And this show is very much about Magneto. However, they wrote Magneto so perfectly. They explain his motivations. He's an empathetic antagonist. The writing for his lines, just everything was 10 out of 10. And that's where episode 2 kind of takes us. The climax, of course, being the UN summit. He rips out part of the building, takes them all up, recreating Asteroid M, and his final lines of "Don't let me let you down," or "Don't make me let you down." And the layers to that, the dichotomy of it is so poetic and brilliant, and it shows the mind of Magneto as this very poetic, loving, but just incredibly fuckable character. I mean, Freudian slip. So, what do you guys think about this episode?
Because he's got that drive, right? Like Magneto's got that drive of having lived through the Holocaust. He's a Holocaust survivor, and never again, right? Never again. He's tried it Xavier's way. Obviously didn't work. Even in episode 2, there's issues. But ultimately, he's like, I'll give it another shot. But to hold that threat, the council's brought up into freaking orbit, and he's like, don't let me let you down. One, I'll drop you, but also I'll destroy the freaking globe and humanity with it. Like, just the power he has. Again, that respect for the character's power. I think there's not one X-Men, I think, that isn't like an uberly OP character with powers that are just nuts.
But isn't that the idea, that they're walking around mass weapons of destruction, and
Right.
that's why everybody's afraid of them or whatever? And
I mean,
know.
let's be honest. Probably the weakest in the whole crew is Wolverine.
yeah, I mean, he
There's
just
an
can
argument,
outlive them
yeah.
all. That's the only thing.
Yeah.
Here's the thing, though. I mean, this is where they did Storm dirty. I kind of alluded to that. She gets shot with a gun that saps her mutant ability, takes that away. She was probably the only one who could have stood up to Magneto at this point. But therein lies the idea, I think, of the season, which is Xavier was kind of the only one keeping the X-Men on the good side of this argument. Because right away he's gone, and we see Cyclops start saying, like, well, Magneto's kind of he's got some truths. He doesn't speak the bullshit as much as we thought.
Well, and Rogue basically just immediately goes over to Magneto's side, right? I mean,
yeah. Well, yeah.
Was that
the
a
history?
thing
Find out more about that a
that
little bit later,
relationship?
but yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
Because in
So,
episode 2, they
so-
allude that they had a relationship, which I didn't realize that was a thing before.
She's the only one that she's ever been able to physically touch.
yeah.
Right.
That's so
Which-
that
Yeah.
When
They did a
you're
fine job of
the last
explaining how.
person on Earth, options are limited.
That's very true. That's very true.
But he's a good-looking dude. It could be like the Blob. It could be worse. So
Yeah.
Or it's
Wow.
that
What's
guy
wrong
with no
with the blood?
skin.
Let's not body shame
Yeah,
here.
man.
What's
Come
the
on.
guy with the transparent skin, and you just see his bones and
Yeah,
muscle?
right.
Yeah.
Could have been that guy. Yeah, you never know.
no one could touch the Blob.
So Magneto really does give it his best to think about things and handle things the way Charles would, which I think is incredibly respectful of, again, their relationship, Charles and Magneto, or Magnus, I guess, if we're sticking with that.
Yeah, that was a new twist.
But again,
I don't
at
know.
the drop of the hat, it really is not a case of Magneto is making the humans bad guys. This is just kind of the nature of the humans in that universe of,
Right.
phobias.
Right.
And it's such an interesting social mirror to look at. And then to see some of our favorite heroes start to be like, well, you know what? Maybe. It's a
cool
scary thought when you start to see that.
Sociological.
Thank you.
Let him get there, Sinistar. We've talked
Test.
about
I was
this.
crawling. We were crawling. It's just a really cool, like, psychological, sociological, discussion that is not just in. I mean, we're not just watching this because it's comic book characters that we love and we grew up watching. There's some like realness to it, right? And you're connecting to it on a level that's, cool. His eyes are a dimension to punch land. That's cool, but why is everybody mad at him? Because he has eyes that are the window to punch land. Like, why?
Deadly weapons.
Yeah.
And it's kind of neat to see the human psyche, thrown together in extremely, extreme way, but maybe not so extreme. You know what I mean? It's a cool thing.
Well, it's the opposite of like reductio ad absurdism, where you make a point by saying something ridiculously. It's like a hyperbolic sort of thing. I mean, later on, Cyclops is doing this interview with this horrible character who's obviously just goading these mutants at every point. But his whole thing is like, I shouldn't have to explain to you or make a case for my personhood. Like, I shouldn't have to explain to you that I'm human. I shouldn't have to make that case. And I think that was so well stated and well illustrated throughout the main arc. Because this show really is very adult. You can watch it as a kid and be like, cool. And that's something the 90s kind of lacked, was there's not that social commentary to the point that our adolescent minds could pick up on.
Yeah.
I want to argue that I feel like this show wasn't designed for kids or teenagers of this era. It was made for us. Yeah. It was made for the people that used to watch it going into now in our adulthood.
Old millennials,
a little more serious and bolder, because we're serious and, well, we're not serious. But
and I want to argue this show wasn't made for kids at all. I want to argue that first off.
Now you tell me.
I know I kind of want to advance this ahead because we're 40 minutes. We're going to be talking for 2 hours here, so
maybe we'll make it a two-part in keeping with X-Men tradition.
We could, but really quick, I want to highlight. So Sinstress is not a fan of cartoons, anime, that sort of stuff, and I'm hit or miss. Like, I love my cartoons from my childhood, But I started watching this and I was like, I don't know if she'd like this. Unbeknownst to me, she was an X-Men cartoon watcher when she grew up.
Oh.
So unbeknownst to me. But anyway, I said to her, okay, I got to the episode that's basically a horror episode, right? The one where like
it's they're
all in their own mind, right?
Yeah.
And it's horrifying. Like I'm watching this, I'm like, this is fucking horror. This is a horror show. And I'm like, okay, Sinsters, just watch this part. And she's like, okay, I'm in. Let's
sold. Yeah.
Yeah.
You know where to reel her in with. Yeah. Give her the scary stuff.
Yeah, I started watching this with my kids. First episode was fine. Second episode, when I got to the where Cyclops is, in the delivery room with his wife, and they're trying to get a doctor to deliver the baby, and they're like, I don't deliver mutant babies or whatever. My kid asks, why won't they deliver the mutant baby? And it kind of brought up, okay, this is what they're talking about, referring to what would have been racism before, and explain that to my kids. And like, which is a good talk to have with your kids. I mean, I'm glad to say that for them. They're more colorblind than past generations, which is nice to see. But then the third episode with the freaking horror elements, I'm like, all right, got to turn it off. It's too scary for me. Definitely too scary for the kids. I had to turn it off.
I thought it was great. That was where I got hooked. That horror episode, I was like,
okay.
I
gotta say,
I'm in.
I think I'm the same way. As soon as Mr. Sinister showed up and they started doing the twisted Goblin Queen shit and all that crap, I was like, all right, I
paused that episode so many times. I will say this. One thing that I really appreciate about the first 60% of this series is they did not tell you, and you could not figure out exactly who the big bad was. Except for like, okay, it's going to be a Magneto story. Magneto's the bad guy. Oh, the humans are going to be the bad guy, which of course they said that Xavier died at the hands of Gyrick, right? So they're doing that whole thing. Oh, Mr. Sinister is coming in. Sinister is the bad guy. Oh, wait, no, there's allusions to this and this and this.
He's a pawn.
They kept you guessing, yeah. So I really like that. Oh, maybe Madeline Pryor. Who knows how it's gonna shake down.
I was expecting the Dark Phoenix to just pop up too, just like we're just gonna throw them all at you.
Okay. So this is we're far enough in now with talking about episode 2, episode 3. They started really showing their hand about how many different amazing long story arcs from the comics they were condensing down to not even a full episode, half an episode. The Madeline Pryor thing, the whole clone of Jean Grey, that could have taken up several episodes if you wanted to focus on that more. The depowered adventures of Storm and Forge could have been so much more. And so there's a number of story arcs that they're like, in case we don't get renewed, we want you guys to know this exists. Like, man, they could have made some of those.
There was a lot of X Factor characters that they had just kind of smattered around there, and it was really neat to like bring out the other teams, the other characters from the other teams that were out there, even if it was just for a second, like because
Avengers, we got Avengers too,
cameos,
right? But I mean, you get the cameo of Captain America. It's the MCU. It's not like a big surprise, but to have like Forge and I think the big guy's name is like Nat or something like that. To have him poking around back there in the background, like X Factor characters, you were like, Cable. Oh shit, there's another team there. Like,
a lot of it was the Where's Waldo kind of cameo member berries, which is great to see. Even if it's not always Morph, of course, doing Juggernaut or Hulk or whomever, to know those characters are out there in the world. Because they did that with Spider-Man a couple times, I think, in the original '90s series. They had Spider-Man.
There was X-Men cameo in Spider-Man,
crossover a few times. So, how
did you guys feel about the episode 4 though? Because they brought in Mojo for episode 4, and I mean, I don't dislike the character, but episode 4 kind of felt out of place. Like episode 3 and 4 is almost enough where I almost fell off the show. I came back in 5. I was hooked.
Oh no, three hooked me, hook, line, and sinker. 4, I'm with you. 4 was like, okay, we went from this amazing fucking haunted house episode to this.
To a video game, really?
Like
I like Jubilee, but
cool.
Right, the Motet here. But 5. When we get to 5, brought right back in.
Before we get to 5, I'll say this: my takeaway from the Motendo episode, because really that was only the first half of that one episode. It was so cool to see like a future version of Jubilee, And I wish that they would have brought that kind of full circle at the end during like the final fight. Her versus the dude that she's had her character arc with, well,
Right.
Sunspot, I guess we're spoiling things. I wish she would have brought back some of the things she learned from older Jubilee to kind of have that payoff. Without having done that, I don't know. I love Jubilee as a character.
Her powers aren't weak.
I
mean, you feel like they might be, right? She does sparkles, right? But she's actually a very powerful
Plasmoids.
mutant and has very powerful powers. But that doesn't really pick up in this show, which you're right. I agree with you.
I feel like that episode was more or less just to be like, hey, Jubilee doesn't just make fireworks out of her fingers. She does some cool shit. Like, we're going to give you 30 minutes just to realize that Jubilee doesn't suck.
Right.
Okay, and then we're going to get back to like the real story. They're just, don't forget, we got to make sure that Jubilee doesn't suck. We just got to point that out real quick.
When you're a kid, she's the character they want the kids to relate to. She's the bumblebee.
Right.
And so now that we don't need that because we're adults, they still want to make her relevant, which they should because she's great. But yeah, I mean, but the story arc of imagine learning the true extent of your powers from a future version of yourself, which is so in keeping with how X-Men works anyways. I feel a missed opportunity. But it's cool that
it's like Harry Potter, where he's like, I knew I could do it because I had already done it.
I'd already done it,
right.
yeah.
Right.
Not me, not Hermione.
You.
It was me, Dad. It's me, Dad. I saw me, Dad.
By the way, that big dude in the background I was talking about from X Factor is Strong Guy. That's
Strong Guy, yeah.
He's got the little glasses with the little tuft of white hair, but he's yoked beyond all belief.
Yeah.
I love X Factor.
Chard, there's a Marvel Snap card of Strong Guy. Just if you're into that kind of thing, all the X-Men have cards now. It's pretty cool. Just saying.
I love anytime we can get that shot of Chard. By the way,
yeah, just the PJ pants. Yeah,
X Factor 1.
Yeah,
first edition. Thank you.
Very cool.
Move along.
Okay.
Bingo.
Episode 5.
I'm flexing this episode. Let me flex.
Bingo. I got bingo.
Because remember, Jake said I wasn't a comic guy.
Magneto,
how am I supposed to know? Like they have a row of Funkos back there. They could be like Horizon Zero Dawn Funkos. I don't know what you collect. You're a sports guy. I didn't know you're a comic book nerd. I'm supposed to know these things.
I'm like,
before we turn the corner with episode 5, I want to ask you guys a question about future X-Men movies. Clearly, they're going to bring the X-Men over into the MCU. They should. I'm excited for it. I respect Kevin Feige for so many things, but for not just they've had the rights to X-Men for 4 or 5 years now. They didn't force them in haphazardly the minute they got the green light. So respect there. Here's my question specifically about Magneto. You have a character who their ethos is written and tied to the Holocaust. How do you do that character in the mid 2020s for no other reason than now the Holocaust was 80 years ago? And if he was a teenager then, Magneto's approaching 100 years old. It worked in 97 because at that time he was 50, 60. And
have we decided that Magneto ages at regular speed? I mean, I don't know.
Yeah.
Do we have any reason not to?
The power
if he
of
can
magnetism,
manipulate metals, what can he do inside of his own body? Right.
I mean, it's not just a metal manipulation. It is literal magnetism that, magnetism does shit to your body. We've got magnets coming off of the fucking sun that's causing the aurora borealis to come all the way down to Washington. I mean, it does some shit.
Well, okay, so that equals Magneto doesn't age?
Yes.
I'm just throwing it out there.
That is rooted in science, sir.
Yeah,
I'm just throwing it out there that maybe he can slow his aging through his magnetic abilities.
And if they want to say that, I am in. But then you got to ask the question about Charles Xavier as well.
Charles Xavier. I was going to say, like, you can't have 80-year-old Charles Xavier still being what he is today. Like, I love Sir Patrick Stew, but I mean, it's got to be.
You guys are that close. I love how you appreciate his last name, but still call him Sir.
Well, yeah,
Sir Stew.
Sir. He's
Sir
a knight.
Sir Stew.
Thank
Sir
you.
Stewie.
Respect Sir Patrick
Stew.
Stew.
If you're listening, I love you.
We've already fixed both of those actors with the new ones. It's fine.
Well, except that took place in the 80s, 90s, right? I think is what it was. Yeah. If we do modern MCU takes place in modern times, so they're going to have to recast both those roles. They'll have to. Right. And that's my worry is that modern MCU. Sorry, GP. Modern MCU feels so much different than the tone of the X-Men movies that came out. It's gonna have to be a multiverse thing. They're gonna have
Yes.
to call Earth something like they did with Multiverse of Madness, where they had that one scene. It's gonna be that, and they're gonna have to keep the X-Men in that universe. If there's any crossovers because of multiverse, it'll work. But if they try and bring X-Men like Wolverine and put him in the same area of like Iron Man on the same Earth, it's just not gonna feel right.
No, I think after what they're doing right now with the multiverse saga, they'll dumb that down and say, okay, everything in the multiverse is destroyed. Now here's our new universe, and now everybody can be in the same sandbox. The thing is, what you're talking about, Jake, is what I think they're going to do with Fantastic Four. It's Fantastic Four from the 60s or 70s in an alternate, past,
Reality.
but
Okay.
so much more technologically advanced, so that when they come here, yada yada yada. But if you start doing that with too many properties, it's gonna. It's
Because
not
there's
gonna,
a history of mutants being oppressed, but then in the MCU today, Marvel superheroes are like Iron Man, right? They're like Thor. They're rock stars. So you don't have that distress. Like you can't have the mutants being oppressed on one hand, and then humanity's praising Thor like a rock star on the other. It's not going to feel right at all. So
Well, he's an alien. It's fine.
He's a god. But what really this is a gripe that I have with the current MCU setup, other than the fact that they're just going fucking blazing. I can't think of the word I'm trying to think. They're just gunslinging, shooting from the hip on everything.
Yeah.
But like the concept of the superhero thing was always like the hidden identity, and not nobody needs to know who you are. Like Tony Stark was a different beast, but he didn't give a shit. But like Spider-Man was super about his hidden identity, and it's like,
but nobody knows who
cool
he
with
is
it.
now.
Well,
That's the
no,
best thing to come out of
because
multiverse
of Doctor
of Madness.
Strange, but
they blew that
that's
wide
the
open
point.
though.
Yeah, but I mean, but for like 3 fucking movies, they were like, "Oh yeah, it's Peter, it's cool," and nobody fucking freaked out about it. Like no one was losing their shit over it. They're just like, "Oh yeah, that guy's Spider-Man. Well, he's on the bus. Fucking Spider-Man's on the bus. You know,
Yeah.
hey, Spider-Man, what's up? Yeah." It drives me nuts. And Captain America constantly taking his cowl off or his mask off all the time. And they're just like, you know what? Just fucking leave it off. We know who you are. You know, it kind
I think they should all
of the heroism for me.
I think they should all just start wearing glasses and take those off to change.
There you go. Be Superman.
Yeah.
Nobody knew it was fucking Superman.
I understand you guys are being
on, and everybody was fine with it. So
I understand you're making fun of Superman. But I will say this: that you guys have seen the pictures of Zoe Deschanel from New Girl,
yes,
but her without bangs and without glasses, absolutely the Clark Kent thing works.
Oh yeah,
yeah.
But they also changed her hair. That's important. Clark Kent. What did he shave his bangs off?
He doesn't have the curl unless he's Superman.
He goes,
then he has
instead of going continental, he goes Western. So
it makes a difference.
Yeah, no, and the whole way. Go back and watch Superman the movie from 1976 with Christopher Reeves. Completely different ways he plays those two characters. It was brilliant. It's a masterclass.
No,
that's not this episode.
He is.
I will talk to you about that wherever you want, whenever you want, but that's not this.
We need to dispatch of this DC debauchery.
No, we need to.
Right.
We need to encourage DC to do better.
Episode 5, please, because that's the episode where I'm like, I'm all in on this show.
This was okay. So my kids kind of watched this with us off and on until this episode, and then my daughter, all she listened to for a couple of weeks was Ace of Base. And this was the first time where the minute this episode ended, my wife and I rewound it. We watched again and again. It was Macbeth. Tomorrow and tomorrow.
All I listened to was Crying Game.
Yeah.
For like weeks after. And wept in the shower after I watched that episode.
So many good parts of this. I've already talked too much. I'm going to let you guys discuss it, and anything you guys don't mention, I will throw in there. But let's start with you, Jake. What do you got from this episode for highlights?
I mean, the opening scene where Rogue basically decides to go all in with Magneto and be by his side in the beginning. That whole sequence was pretty stellar. That was memorable. Definitely not a kid's show. But I mean, for me, it's always going to be that ending, right? Like I really believed it was a show that would not pull punches and would actually kill characters, and that's what happens in this episode. And you're like, they can't do that, but they do. And I know it's comic books. I'm sure in season 2 they'll do something with Gambit again. There's some history there, but
we already know
that ending scene when he runs and he's picked up by a Sentinel and he's like, "My name is Gambit, remember me." That is one of the greatest lines in an MCU adjacent thing ever. Like that scene is iconic for me now, and it's in a cartoon. And think about how impressive his powers are. All he had to do
was touch that thing, and you saw the energy like flow through. It was so cool. Like that was
But
an OP moment for the guy.
You got to think that, you know, is that a sacrificial thing? Like, did he pour knowing he wasn't going to get out of that? Because I'm thinking, why didn't he just do this earlier? Why didn't he just touch everything and blow it up? Like, why? And then I was like, well, he was dying. Maybe he fed all of his energy into it, and that's you know, he sacrificed himself to it.
If you're gonna pull out the question, why didn't they do this earlier or whatever? Like, I'm sorry, but you have now ruined comic books because
it's fair. I mean, these guys, they're using cards as explosives, like the smallest, thinnest thing you can find. Bro, pick up a tire. Let's use something that'll cause
the prices of tires versus the prices of cards. You get 52 of those pieces. Just when he gets older, it'll be dominoes. That's a good one.
But napkins.
Let's keep it in the 90s. They're pogs.
Napkins are bigger.
Yes, but they're not aerodynamically throwable. Now, if they were shurikens,
Gambit with paper airplanes would be a force.
Smashers, use soda cans, recycle. There you go. Now we're going green.
Yeah.
Just don't drink the soda, and it doesn't matter that it's aerodynamic. It has weight, and you can throw it.
There you go.
Gambit figuring out his power as a child was the messiest game of Duck Duck Goose of all time.
Yeah. I know it is. It's the pink one that exploded.
You know, for a different take, but the same outcome, Rogues was the same problem.
Yeah. It's the one passed out.
They both had horrible.
Exactly
they both had horrible Duck Duck Goose experiences.
Oh yeah.
Why is everybody sleeping? I feel great.
Why do I feel awesome?
I have the strength of 12 kids.
Chase me. I'm tired.
Yeah. Oh my god.
Did you guys think that with this, they were going to keep Magneto dead for the rest of the season? What did you guys think?
No,
because I didn't believe that Charles was dead, and I think where one goes, the other will. I mean, story point wise, yeah.
Right. You know what? They killed Gambit, so I was committed to being like, they're just going all out.
Correct me if I'm wrong, because honestly, I don't have enough separation between episodes. To me, it's kind of all blended together. Isn't this kind of the low point for Magneto that kind of makes it so that he wants to FedEx the pain? Isn't that kind of what this episode was?
I will correct you because I feel you're wrong. I think this is the closest thing to being Charles Xavier Magneto has ever been, especially when he's protecting. Oh God, it's
Toad.
Who?
Toad.
Yeah, okay, he's got him kind of in that sphere, and I'm sorry. This is to me the best moment of the entire show.
When he says, "Don't be afraid"
in German, and then he uses the train, which is a horrific iconography when you relate it to what happened to Jews during the Holocaust. And he used that as a weapon to whip and beat. Oh my God! Like even just talking about it, you can't see them, but the goosebumps are real. But just to hear him whisper that, you know, do not be afraid, which is a very biblical phrase. So for him to encompass and become so many different things at once, and then ultimately fail because Toad died.
That's kind of my point when I say like FedEx the pain. This is Magneto's like low point. That's like, all right, it's over, and I'm going to just win. Like I will win.
I'm going to do it Xavier's way. We're going to do peaceful. We're going to sign treaties. I'm going to represent people in Geneva.
Through this.
And then they fucking sent that abomination out there to wreck house. And he's like, fuck it. I'm killing everything.
I'm just going full. I'm just going full power. Yep. Let's go.
If he was ever going to go Super Saiyan, it would have been
side.
Just
hardcore dark side.
If I have to do it his way, I'm going to do it my way.
Right.
Yeah,
I mean, he kind of did. He kind of did.
Exactly what he did.
He shut down all of like the Earth, basically, and then like Asteroid M, and he's like, "Let's go."
We did it once. We could do it again.
Let's fucking go.
But like twice as horrific because he shut down all power across the globe and made it even bigger. You know, Doomsday Asteroid M in orbit, basically looking the plan of destroying the Earth and starting fresh with his new planet. Again, he's one of those mutants where it's just insane how powerful he is in the comics. And like he was always great in the movies too, but in this show, other level for sure.
Yeah, I watched
Boy.
the show and I was like,
Sir
Yeah.
Ian McClellan.
There's a
holy
reason. Yeah,
shit.
it's not like, well, I could just move metal around. Like what he can do with that shit is fucking insane.
Yeah.
I can
And
shut
I
down
gotta ask,
all I can
like-
shut down all energy across the whole planet. Let's go.
am I wrong in assuming that the costume is from House of M? Is that where that's from? I want to say that it is.
During the No More
must have been
Mutants
it.
thing with Scarlet Witch.
Yes, I think so.
Yeah, I think you're right. But it is iconically an era, we'll say it that way. But really, the only thing that gets me is the extra long gloves, the prom gloves. Otherwise, it looks badass, and I'm here for it.
It's
But
just
if you
the
got those
giant
belts,
M. Like, I mean, just the style. I'm Magneto. Everybody knows who I am. I'm like, accuse me of terrorist, but let me just put a gigantic M on my fucking chest
Just come
and get rid of the
floating in, going,
sleeves.
they need to make a purple M&M and give him that like stylized M, and then he can seduce the green M&M because for whatever reason people care about the sexuality of M&Ms.
Also, also M&M's. We're looking for sponsorship too.
Oh yeah, not a sponsor, but I am open.
We
Yeah.
were M&Ms at one point.
We were, yeah.
That's right. I remember that.
That was a whole bit.
One.
That's the production values we bring every week.
This is a definitive episode, I think, in animation. I know that's saying a lot,
Mm.
but everything that this episode accomplished, Chard was saying he was holding out hope about people surviving and all this stuff. We rewatched that episode. I've already mentioned that, and every time it was, did they really just kill off Gambit?
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, his final stand was just as impactful as Magneto's. He was just
Okay.
more of a side character.
Here's
But it
my
was still-
here's my struggle though. I have been taught by comic books and comic book, side whatever, that nobody dies.
Yeah,
It's true.
Earth 363 is only
And so-
one.
And so my problem is I was like, did Gambit die? Nah.
No.
636.
Yeah.
Sorry.
And comic book characters die all the time. The only thing more difficult than killing a comic book character is
It's
getting them to
keeping
stay
them-
that way.
Is
Yeah.
keeping them
Yep.
dead.
Yeah.
Yep.
That's
Yeah.
So
I think
and
the
GP,
long
like you-
running joke was that Bucky was the longest dead running
Yeah.
character until they brought him
Right.
back as the Winter Soldier.
Right.
He was the only one that died and wouldn't come
93
back.
years. Whatever. Yeah.
Yeah.
But GP, you brought
That's
a good
hilarious.
point where like this show is basically a mismatch of different comic book runs kind of pushed together, and it's interesting because the original cartoon was only 20 minutes of an episode. So when they did a 2 or 3 parter, it was basically an hour. This series, though, however, I think the minute runtime is like 40 minutes for most episodes, if
I'll
not
look it up.
longer. It's
Yeah.
quite a bit longer, but they still cram in multiple arcs together in even the same episode. So I'm with you, Sinistar. When Gambit's dead, I'm like, they can't really keep him dead, right? Because he does come back as a, I think in the comic there's a run where he was Apocalypse's horseman for a while, and I think
Horseman
that's
of
where
Death.
they'll probably go with him next season. Is that, and that and that makes sense to me. But I wasn't sure they're going to do it this season if that's what they're going to go, because I at this point we still don't know who the villain is. We don't know who the major villain is by episode 5, which is kind
But
of
it's coming.
wild.
They're
And they
they're
did
30,
show-
they're 30 minutes. 30 to
30
35
minutes?
minutes.
So they did, if you go back and rewatch them, spoiler alert here, again, too late, the big bad of the season is Bastion. There are photos and odd little Easter eggs of Bastion.
Yes.
Even at the beginning of episode 5, you see him for the first time, but it's only like from here up as he walked in front of the camera.
Right.
Like, it's so bizarre, but it's such a cool on-the-nose kind of thing for a character to do, like he's an extra. And really, those
Maybe-
are the scariest bad guys. I mean, you can have Mr. Sinister who does what he does, or you can have Magneto and all these people who are bombastic and want to be the face of evil. But then you've got a truly brilliant, overly powered technopath who is okay with being in the shadows. That's terrifying.
Maybe the person that was drawing him couldn't draw feet.
He nailed the fuck out of the top part of the head. So,
By the way, the last episode was 40 minutes, so it goes basically 30 up to 40 minutes.
Okay, which still a
So-
beefy length for a cartoon, right? Like it's pretty good.
the next couple episodes, we figure out Bastion is the big bad. We get some of their history, which Bastion, they retconned or altered Bastion's history to make more sense. Sorry, go ahead, Sinistar.
I have to bring up a point. So I
Good.
didn't know enough history with
Nimrod.
No,
Cable?
son of Cable, to know
Yeah,
that
yeah,
he was
okay.
he was the
We haven't
child
talked
of
about Cable yet.
Yeah, I didn't know that he was the child of Jean Grey and
Madeline Pryor.
Cyclops.
Madeline Pryor. He was the son of the clone.
Right. I didn't actually know that. Like,
Yeah.
even though I'm like a Deadpool guy and Cable's made his appearance in a lot of Deadpool, I had no clue. So
Yeah,
when that happened, that was like literally like,
not to dox Cable, Nathan Summers. But yeah, and again, the way they handled his arc with his mother issues, clone mom or non, that kind of thing, I think by the end was resolved very well and poignantly, I think, for anybody who's ever had mommy issues. And
well, they
if
even
you're
had like a
listening-
family
really
vacation in
listen-
the car, which I thought was
really
hilarious
hitting
when they're all
home.
three together. They were badass.
if you're
together.
listening to the podcast, you need to come watch that scene right there.
Speaking of psychological issues,
yeah, right. Anyway, moving on.
Macbeth.
Okay, but seriously,
right? Yeah, back to
mind
the Macbeth
blown.
thing.
Mind blown
Uh,
with Cable for me.
It's
Mind
great
blown.
because even in the original run of the cartoon, Cable was, I liked the Age of Apocalypse run of the cartoon was iconic for me as a kid. And they had Bishop and Cable, but I don't even think in the original cartoon they mentioned that connection. I knew it because of friends telling me that's what it was. But yeah, here's where you get the origin of Cable, which is nice to see.
And one thing I want to make sure to mention about Cable is, of course, they explain later on how he got lost in the time stream and where he ended up and all that. But
Right.
he has tried a couple of hundred times now to prevent
Right.
the Genosha event, but his time machine keeps pulling him back, showing that this is an absolute locked-in thing, which is so fucking brilliant because it takes out any question about, well, can't you just go back in time and redo it? Because you've got somebody who says, I've tried it several times, and there's a certain moment where this has to happen,
It's
which is
Doctor
coinciding
Who.
with so many things we see in the MCU.
It's Doctor Who
acceptance.
rules. It's Doctor
Yeah.
Who rule.
There's certain key areas of history. And I think they're trying to do that with the multiverse stuff as well, that there's certain key moments in the multiverse that they cannot change. And I think that will be a big theme going forward as well. So it's interesting they have the two spins on that.
Anyway,
And
I
it's
wanted
always
to
the
get
worst possible thing you can think of.
I wanted to get that out of the way because seriously, that was an aha moment for me when I was watching. Was like, wait.
And I think because the MCU has stumbled a little bit since Endgame, I think they're taking a page out of the Disney playbook when it comes to Star Wars, which is let's create some sort of lore that will coincide with the weaker parts of our story that people don't like. Somehow Palpatine returned and explain, no, this has actually been going on for a while. We just, So I think that's kind of what they're doing with some of these adjacent properties, feeding it back into the main thing. But anyway, that's a whole other episode as well. So yeah, we learned Bastion, who was a version of Nimrod that was destroyed in the history that then impregnated, or I guess became a child by infecting this child's parents, who were very small background characters from the original 90s run.
Right.
It was, I think, a bartender and a janitor and a waitress. They hooked up, had this kid who is infected with this techno virus, and we have Bastion.
A waitress at a cocktail bar?
Applebee's.
That's when I met you. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Nice. Very good.
GP gets my reference.
Don't you want me, baby?
Don't you want me? I like the mix, the alternate mix.
It's good.
Jake, you get me.
They've changed the Bastion story, which is fine. I think if Bastion
what was it
were
originally?
bigger-
Because I was always confused with this origin of this character because Nimrod's the ultimate Sentinel, and there's Master Mold and the Sentinels, and they're all robots. The fact that they made him mutant never sat right with me, so I'm just curious how that's different from the comics.
In the comics, Nimrod, and forgive me, there's a not a MacGuffin, but a portal that they cross through that has a name that I am not going to remember, but it basically undoes their form, but their soul kind of remains amalgamated to something else. It's
Okay.
I quoted you the scriptures on this a while ago, but they had to cross a threshold or a portal looking thing, and then they were I don't say reincarnated, maybe pre-incarnated. Is that a word? Did I just create
Pre-incarnation? Yeah.
Incarnated as a different
You heard
version.
it
Yeah.
here first.
Anybody who knows, correct me in the comments. Don't come after me. Don't at me because I'm not going to care about it. But I do want to know. So if you would educate us, that would be great in the comments. Press B to cancel.
Also, subscribe, come join our Discord.
All that.
Yeah, tell us how we're wrong in Discord. GP loves that. It's good.
Give me all of the wrongness in Discord. I check that constantly.
All right.
Okay, keep going. Keep
All
going.
right. Quick question. Do we want to keep going or do we want to make this a two-parter?
No, we should finish this up because we're
I won't
at
sleep if
episode
we don't.
6 at the very least, right? It's not that much more to talk about. Bastion stuff kind of rolls together, I feel like. I'd rather we just finish this up.
Yeah. So long story short, exposition finale, and it was great.
Well, episode 6 is when, Spoilercast is when Storm gets her powers back.
Right. Which again, the
Kicking
side
it
quest
with
stuff they
Forge.
did with her and Forge was fun, and I like that. And power couple. I love the character of Forge. I love that his abilities are so rooted in his imagination. It's fucking brilliant. They even ask him, "When did you come up with this?" or "How did you make that?" And he's like, "I thought of it." And I just think if more people had that outlook on life, we could get a lot more done as a species.
It was neat to see the Shadow King again because I remember him from the original run of the show, so it was neat to see that there. But again, it felt a little bit. I'm glad they gave her powers back because I was worried for a minute she wouldn't have them. And you get to see her change in costume, which is great because I recognize that from Marvel Snap. I know we all love Marvel Snap here on the podcast. So that was kind of neat. But it did feel weird that they had that tangent of a story for a few episodes. I almost wonder if the show would have been better if they just kept that out. I don't know.
I do want to say, I'll bring this up now, and I don't think I'll bring it up again. I think the person who got shit on the most in this season was Beast. Not a great doctor, really great mechanic. Had to rebuild the Blackbird or whatever X number of times.
A couple times.
Oh my God, Cyclops ejecting out of that in that coupe in that car, very James Bond.
Yeah.
Very anyway. Okay, so that's enough about Beast, whom I love, but kind of like Wolverine. Background character for the season, and that's fine. I had a train of thought, man, and I fucking missed it. So yeah, Bastion he activates the first of the human Sentinels, which have a name. It's not that, and that's when we see Rogue actually. Right before that happened, she killed a guy, and everybody's standing there like, "Is this who we are now?" And then immediately everybody's okay with it. It seems. And then 2 beats later, okay, no, he's alive as a human Sentinel. Whatever that means.
Right.
Yeah, the idea of human sentinels as a concept, I mean, it works for what the show is. But it's basically
sentinels.
bringing zombies to Marvel, which is a bit odd, right?
Techno zombies.
Yeah.
But also, they sign
when
up
they're
for that. I
fighting
think I missed
Bastion's
that. Or is that
mother,
like
it was a bit much. That's all I'm saying. It's kind of weird.
It seemed like it was just done in the background somehow. I forget if that was explained.
Yeah,
but it was just kind of like, oh yeah, we've basically kind of figured out how to impregnate everybody with living Sentinel technology.
It's not everybody. There's some sort of, I don't know if there's a pattern or if it's just, 50-50, but not every single person in the world turned into a Sentinel. Right. The scene, with Bastion's mommy, that was another just really great note for horror as a genre in the cartoon. Chard, you are being uncharacteristically non-hyperverbal. What's your take on Bastion and the Sentinels?
I'm actually doing a little research. Bastion was actually created in 1996, so he is actually from
canon. He's canon.
He's canon from the show. He was in I think it was X-Men 333 or something like that. Okay. There's a lot to him in his comic. His comic life, but as for the TV show, it was just such a weird. It was a good thing because Bastion's cool. I thought he was a cool big bad, but he was so left field on the big bad because it's like you have these big bads that are out there, and they kept showing fucking Apocalypse in the opening, cut scenes. So I kept thinking he was going to show up at some point. Spoiler, he kind of does, but
he does.
Not to the extent that I thought he was going to be in it. And I know they're just going back to the Four Horsemen and him. Just from the original TV show because they do the Age of Apocalypse on there, which is fantastic series.
Yeah, isn't that kind of what the ending lineup is like lined up for Age of Apocalypse? Yeah,
essentially.
They all get sent back in time for some reason, right? And then just
there's like 3 factors or factions.
Yeah, the time stream splits a bunch of people, but that's that's different. Bastion,
we'll cover that in a minute.
Weird. He's just a weird off the cusp kind of pick, and I was cool with it. Like I was like, huh. All right, cool. We'll go with that. I'm cool with
Like-
this. Let's see what happens with that. And the
He's
fact that he kept evolving in each episode and kept adding more
Right.
shit to his person, I was like,
So
all right,
cool.
he's turning into like a pretty badass Transformer thing.
By the
Like,
time he got the wings, I was like, this is
yeah, when he's flying
cool
around in
shit.
space, I was like, all right,
Yeah.
this guy's all he's all right.
dope.
I didn't know how I felt about the primes. The Sentinel Prime thing was a little goofy to me, in my personal opinion. But what how do you make the worst thing worse? Is you turn it into people that you care about, and
right.
then and then he snaps his fingers, and then everybody becomes one, and you're like, holy shit, how are they going to get out of this? What are they going to do next time, Scoob? And like all these other goddamn shows where you can't binge watch because we're in a binge watch society. They actually held off releasing each episode.
So
I can't remember. It felt like forever to get the final goddamn episode.
See, you
Yeah,
were
with
happy
you.
about that, and
Yeah.
I don't really have a problem with binge society. I really don't.
I miss
with
having the
Sinistar.
conversation throughout the week.
Eh.
You know what my problem is with it is that it's so hard to avoid spoilers with these shows. Like it really is. I'd rather just go radio silent for the week, a couple weeks, and then just binge it like Sinistar. I'm the same way. I want to watch it. I have very limited time for TV shows, and a lot of the time I couldn't watch it week to week, so I was doing 2 episodes here, 2 episodes there. I would much rather just binge it in one night. But I mean, either's fine.
I got to live and exist in the same kind of headspace I did as a kid on Saturday mornings.
Week to week.
I was there for it. I mean, my wife and I, we talked about it throughout the week, and then as Wednesdays approached, it was like, oh man, we're hyped. What do you think is going to happen? I love the idea of speculating. I love the fuck out of it.
Here's my rub is like the timing didn't work out. I had to wait until Thursday for the final episode to watch. Like, yeah.
To get that real Fox Kids experience, GP, what they should have done is after 4 or 5 new episodes, break for 5 months, and then make you wait for the other episodes.
I was going to say, or
doing
start
now.
over from the beginning again.
Yes.
Dragon Ball Z.
Dragon Ball, yeah.
Or
Dragon Ball Z.
just give a big fucking to be continued and end the season.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
just call it.
Yo, Kid Boo's going to be in the next episode. Sega Saga. What?
Yeah, right.
I just saw this.
Just severance that motherfucker.
So
Just
bad.
severance the hell out of that motherfucker.
Okay. Also, real quick to get back to the show, Xavier's alive. He's coming back to Earth. He did or he didn't marry the Queen of the Bird People. Nobody was
Well,
really happy about him.
I think he
comes-
did.
He
I
did.
hated that episode.
He walks
Had
for
a
a few
messy
episodes.
divorce.
Yeah.
He comes back, and somehow on the whatever plane he takes these people to, he understands Gambit's dead, which is pretty dope. I love that he's that connected with the students. I love that they have shown how flawed Charles Xavier is, and a lot of people in leadership have kind of that dichotomy of this is what's good for the gander, but also here's some really bonehead decisions I'm going to make that will come back to bite
orange,
everybody else.
like
but I'll be
orange
gone.
walking pants. Who wears those, bro? Come on.
Yeah. I don't know. I would. I don't know.
That's
But,
my
I
starched
can't-
up khakis.
Yeah, sorry, okay. It's see.
Are those Dockers?
Oh my god.
Anyways, I'm sorry.
So he comes back. Oh my god. There's one other thing I want to mention because we all love Nightcrawler. Wolverine touching Nightcrawler as he bamps through the Brimstone dimension, and the way they show that with like the stretching and then the pulling and all that.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
so
Really cool.
fucking dope.
Yeah.
It's so cool. And then him showing up as a support to Wolverine fighting off those Prime Sentinels.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Fuck yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Oh, it was so good. I got 6 reasons.
I mean, I think that's part of the reason that I love Nightcrawler so much is it's like he's used a little bit of as that like fix it MacGuffin. And so when he shows up, he's just going to be like, I'm just going to teleport this person out like right before they die. I'm going to teleport him out right before they die.
He is the Deus Ex Machina of X-Men.
Yeah. He's the MacGuffin. He's the Deus Ex. He's the whatever,
Sorry,
right?
the Deus Ex Machina.
I'm going to get some gut for this, and I apologize because I hope people understand this is me kind of being somewhat silly. But the character of Kurt Wagner is also heavily steeped in the Catholic tradition.
I know.
And
I know.
if you have
that
anybody
rubs
in
a
your
little bit.
family or your friend group, and I'm not speaking ill of anybody of the faith, and I think it's great, but if you have anybody who's just like that committed to it and devoted, they'll show up and you can have a conversation about anything. And their first thing is about that, and everybody's just like, oh, yeah, hey. Awesome.
It's
So I imagine he just shows up and says some stuff about the rosary, and everybody's like, "Great, man, love that."
That's cool. That's cool. This
Love
energy
that
beam
for you.
That's great, man. But this energy beam's coming for my head. Can you help me out?
can you bamf us
What-
out
what
real
the-
quick? Can you be a bro? Can you
Just
do that
give me
for
a
us,
quick
Bamf?
bamf, please.
Yeah.
You know, what would be a really cool line for Nightcrawler right before he kills people is something like, "In His mercy," and then slice. That'd be a really cool, especially with the
Stab,
accent.
stab.
He
Yeah,
is
yeah.
badass when he fights, right? Like I'll
Yeah.
always
Oh,
remember
yeah.
the best version of Nightcrawler in a scene was the movie, right, where he's fighting the
Yeah.
White House and he's just
It was so
teleporting,
cool.
kicking
Alan
everybody's
Cumming.
ass.
And he's got the
And-
knife in his tail, and he's just
Yeah.
Yeah.
At least in this, he has a sword, and he can fight. He's a badass character, but because of the religious factor of the character, he
Well,
doesn't
he's
want to
the-
kill anybody, right?
Right, he's so
he's
steeped
an
in the idea of
acrobat
love.
by trade.
Right.
I mean, that's
Right.
what he
Circus.
was. That's why he's so.
But there's also that level of self-loathing,
Circus
which
Wagner.
I mean, again, I'm not trying to say anything about any communities, but the level of self-loathing that sometimes can come from
sure.
the older religions, I guess, is probably a great way of saying that. Raised Catholic, he hates who he is. He thinks he's been cursed by God because he has this kind of demon appearance. He doesn't like that he has to fight and that he's so good at it. But he also is wanting to protect people who can't protect themselves. So he's such an interesting character for those reasons and so many more. But yeah, for him to show up is great.
He's the wounded hero, right? I mean,
Yeah. But that's the other thing is like, I don't want to kill any humans. Oh, they're sentinels now. Boom, 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 dead, dead, dead. In
They
His
still
mercy.
die though. Like they
I
still
still-
die.
no, that's
No,
he's just
they-
killing the sentinel half. He's not thinking about the other
He's
half.
vivisecting all of these people, and they just, crawl back and reform. They're fine.
They're good. It's fine.
I
Yeah,
don't know.
Yeah.
he remains.
It's 18
do.
rules. Jake, it's 18 rules, and nobody actually died. They always show the people get out of the Jeep as after it rolls. It's fine.
Yeah, but they didn't fly a tank in this show though. That's the unfortunate
Yeah.
thing. So to jump ahead, then I guess we should jump ahead. Asteroid M, the fight when it's X-Men
yeah.
versus X-Men.
Oh yeah.
That was pretty badass too.
I
right?
can't believe they did that with Wolverine.
Well, they got it. I was waiting
Yeah.
to see if they were going to introduce the Bone Claw version of Wolverine at some point, because that is a huge canon part in the comic books where Magneto rips the adamantium off of his bones.
Yeah.
And I was like, are they going to do it in the show? Because I had it in the back of my head. I was like, I feel like they're going to somehow. And sure as
Bone
shit,
Claw
last
is
episode
ready.
they fucking ripped all that shit off.
Oh,
Bone
am I-
Claw's
yeah.
ready.
It's weird
We
though
squirm.
because I feel like you had mentioned before, GP, where you felt like they added a bunch of these mishmash of comic book arcs in case they only got the one season, and I feel that's what the adamantium rip was. I think that would have been better in a later season when they could have focused on that and the impact of Wolverine. I think they kind of shoehorned that in because in that sequence when Wolverine is taking down Magneto, why would Magneto get the strength to do it right then and there? I felt it would have been better in a later season. I mean, it's neat to see it on screen because it was pretty accurate from what I understand from the comic book scenes.
Yep.
Yes, and like even the angles of his like being torturously put through that it was good. It looked so good. What I loved about it the most was his declaration that, as he said to Magneto in almost a respectful way, the brave always die first. And I think it speaks to, speaking of self-loathing, how much of a chip on his shoulder Wolverine has that he can't die. Because he's a very brave character, but now you have to think maybe it's because he knows he won't die. And is that actually
Right.
bravery?
Or he thinks that he won't. Yeah.
Right.
Right.
So I think that was such another just incredible moment that really could only have been given by Wolverine. So I'm glad he at least got that. So, and that's the other thing with Magneto. He's supposed to be this leader of all these people, but he's also the one who puts the pawns out there first, like chess.
Sure.
And so he, is that Wolverine being genuinely respectful, or is that him flipping his nose at him?
Right.
For sure.
Yeah.
Sorry,
Good
I'm talking too much today, guys.
No,
Okay.
you're not. You're hosting this thing, and you're doing great. This was a really surprising group of cartoons put together, and I even like the Archer-esque type animation that they put in there with the really bold black lines and that stuff. I know Jake liked he was talking about he preferred the older one, but But I don't know. I like it's almost cell shaded in kind of a way, but it looks like Archer. I mean, for those of you who've seen the comedy, super spy show Archer, it's got the super bold black lines, and I just think it makes the characters pop a little bit more.
It's great.
So I kind of stopped following the releases from the Marvel universe. Was this really announced, or was this really just kind of shadow dropped?
It was announced.
There's been hype for it for about a year.
Yeah, 2022, 2023, they did the Disney big D23 show, and there was a bunch of announcements coming up, and this was one of them. They just kind of dropped X-Men 97, the title card, and with nothing really, I think, afterwards, GDP. It was just kind of like, we're doing this, but with no details whatsoever, and you didn't know what to really expect.
Right.
Yeah, but then the months leading up to it, they said, hey, it's coming out spring of 24, and then they did the dates like a few months out. And they, said, hey, we're doing 10 episodes and yada, yada, yada. Okay. So I guess kind of a mix of both, but it was something that I think was on a lot of radars for a while because people were so confused as to what to expect. And then what was the other thing I wanted to make sure to mention with all of this? Oh, the fight between Jubilee and Sunspot. Seeing him in his full brilliance was actually really cool. That character's arc was well done. And then the betrayal by his mother, handing him over to the authorities was that was a gut punch.
Yeah, because it's funny because they lure you in with him finally coming clean and being like, "Hey, mom, I'm a mutant." She's cool with it. Well, it's like, "Oh, all right," and then later she's like, "No, fuck you."
They lure you in. To me, this was an allegory to orientation wise coming out of the closet.
Yeah, right, exactly.
And not I'm not part of that group. So if I'm wrong, please please take this as me trying to be understanding. But I very much was like, oh, it's the accepting mother. It's and then all of a sudden you're like,
you can be that way, just not
you're
in public.
Actually a total bitch.
Yeah.
Do what you want behind closed doors, but for the sake of the family, you do this. Yeah,
which 100%. Not if you're religious, that's fine. But sadly, that happens more often than not in a lot of religious families. Of oh, we're accepting of you. Just don't tell grandma.
But in this case, the priority is not the religion; it's the money. It's the optics. Of we're a well-to-do family. We have brands.
That's why I say it's an allegory, right? And I love that it was a really well done allegory.
Right.
So
I that's and it reminds me. I think it's from X2 back in the early 2000s when Bobby takes some of the people because the X Mansion just got blown up, and he tells his mom, and she's like, "Well, have you tried not being a mutant?"
Yeah,
like,
right.
On the nose, but it's
like
spoon fed. You like. Here's what it is, guys.
Mom, it's not just a phase.
It's not a choice. You are who you are.
Yeah. So, I can really appreciate the series for that aspect of it. I think it really draws the parallels well and presents them in a mature and honest way.
Yeah, I like that it's brought a lot of the bigotry that X-Men really was trying to help with. Stan Lee was amazing with that stuff. He was progressive and forward thinking, and it was equality, race equality and stuff back then. Now it's gender equality and orientation equality, and I love that that's basically what they did with this take.
Yes, to that point, that is what makes Magneto so great, because he's the one who's showing the viewer, have you noticed it's always something with these humans?
Right.
Like, there's got to be some sort of hatred towards somebody, and I'm sick of it. And I'm like, yeah, man, I get that. I mean, there's still race issues. I wish there weren't. There should have never been, but there still are. There's the gender inequality, and then all of the various social issues that we're going with, the things that this show is alluding to. And then there's just Magneto who's like, come on, guys.
What the fuck?
Always something. Yeah. Nobody. Every time you take a step forward, there's always 2 steps back when it comes to hate.
It's tribalism, right?
And again, to clarify, it's always something with these people. I mean, it's always something with the people in the majority.
Yes.
They always got to find something to hate on. So anyway, it's such a brilliant show. And Magneto, I still think, is the main character of the show. and
agree.
I love it. And then to reconnect him with Charles in the finales, in the restaurant or the pub setting that they knew each other with
Yes.
the tidewaters raging and surrounding the place and then leaking in, and then Charles kind of breaking his one rule about not wanting to use his powers to actually change somebody's mind and rewire them. I mean, I think we're going to get Onslaught. I won't get into that because that's a whole other thing as well. There's
That
for
I'm
as much-
excited for.
you really
Well-
you like the Onslaught.
But
Okay.
is that what you think it's going to be, or you think it's going to be Apocalypse again? Because I mean, we're
think-
full spoiler cast. We're at the end,
Okay.
right?
How many people did we get in this episode? I mean,
Exactly.
maybe we're stretching it out.
You can do it all.
Maybe it was compartmentalized because they thought they didn't make it long, but this was just a proof that they're just smattering shit out there. I could see Apocalypse and Onslaught being a
But
problem.
Bastion
okay.
was definitely the villain of this series. Sorry, GP. So
No.
like when you talk about big bad, it doesn't get much bigger than Apocalypse and Onslaught.
Yeah,
I
but
think
Did you
can't
know
have
Bastion
both.
was there? You saw Mr. Sinister. You saw
Yeah.
fucking the Sentinels and Mega Mold and all these
Yeah.
guys. And then,
okay.
you know, the guys that made the Sentinels. So you're just like, you were like, to bring
Yeah,
back
the
the
whole-
Scooby-Doo reference again, you're like backtracking all these bad people to be
Right.
like, who is it actually going to be? You thought, I mean, Magneto, we were waiting for Magneto to fucking lose his shit.
turn.
all the
Well,
time.
yeah, that's
when
true.
when we got to Trask, I'm like, okay, we're gonna take care of
Yeah.
the Sentinels.
This is
It's
it.
Trask.
Oliver
We're
Trask
done.
was going to be
And then-
the guy, and it
And then
wasn't.
Trask is like, it's not me.
Yeah, I didn't have nothing to do. I'm
So,
busy. I was washing
Before
my hair.
we talk about the stinger at the end of the after credits and how the show ends. Before we get to that, a couple other bullet points I just want to get your quick takes on. The Phoenix shows up.
Mhm.
Did anybody like that? Did anybody hate that? I have my opinions. I'll go last.
I thought the Phoenix disappeared from Jean. I didn't realize part of it was still within Jean that she can call upon. I thought it was kind of over and done with that character's arc because they made such a big deal of that leaving her body in the original show, but it's been so long. So
Yeah, but
Okay.
she bounces back and forth throughout the Phoenix and the comic books for quite a while, and I mean she held the moniker for years and years and years. But
right.
it makes sense to me to just because again we're smattering story arcs back into this. We're trying to keep
Yeah.
these. I mean she puts on her Marvel Gore costume
It was cool.
towards the end of the series where she's
Yes.
you know where she was in X Factor when they all left to join X Factor. So I wouldn't be surprised if X Factor becomes a thing too in the future with all the shit they were doing. So
Here's the thing, though.
There's-
We don't know who the Phoenix was in the original cartoon. We don't know if it was Madeline Pryor or if it was Jean Grey because we don't know at what point Sinister
Right.
captured them and did that. So that
Did the
also begs
spot,
the
yeah.
question, are there two versions of the Phoenix Force?
Right.
Does a
Right.
part of the Phoenix
Mm.
Force occupy both? Or is
Right.
it just one? I don't like how they brought back the Phoenix Force for it to just be a 30-second,
Yeah, I'm
Yeah.
also
etch a
kind of,
sketch.
I'm also kind of a little tired of, I mean, Phoenix is a little bit of the village bicycle to me. It's like we need.
they do
we
it
need-
a lot, but it's
I know,
to
and it's
meter
comic
things, and I
books.
get it.
I
Yeah, I
know
get
it's
it, I get
comic
it, I
books,
get
and they do it, but at the same time, I'm like, okay, can we move on from
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, especially
Can we
for
get
Jean.
can we get past Venom? We've already done Venom 1,700 times.
No, keep bringing Venom back. I'm okay with that.
No, but bring him back right. Stop with this horse shit. Stop playing
Oh,
with
no,
my emotions.
Don't say that. The horse was great. The Venom
No,
horse? Come on.
Yeah,
I'm with you, Sinister, because like Jean's character always being the Phoenix at the end of the character arc
yeah.
is not great. At least when this is a show where Magneto went places, Cyclops went to the anti-hero almost for a point where I almost
know-
thought he would return, but Jean
Mhm.
defaults to the Phoenix in almost every iteration, where it's this show or the movies with the younger cast character and even the original movies, right? So I'm kind of over the Phoenix at this point as well.
The Phoenix to me at this point is that annoying roommate you forget that lives under the stairs. Where they're just like,
Oh,
Right.
you're still here?
hey, you guys are ordering pizza? I want some.
Oh,
Yeah.
you're still
Fuck,
here?
This guy's still here.
And then
You
eats the pizza and then is gone for a
Yeah,
while.
and then totally bogarts
Or-
everything
or
and then dips
sets-
back into his room.
Sets the entire pizza on fire.
Yeah.
Until
had
next
3
time,
beers, we're all
Skeletor
gone.
runs off.
Yeah.
Skeletor So the other thing I hated about it, I think I would have liked it more if the Phoenix had stuck around. But it saved her ass once, and then she's like, "It's gone from me." And I'm like, "Well, that's a horrible
Is it
time."
though?
Until
Is it-
next time.
It's been gone for you for a while.
Can you imagine having erectile dysfunction, and then at the worst time, like at a funeral, let's say, you're like,
It's gone for
happening.
me.
and then your wife's like, "Okay, let's get you over to the closet and take care of this,"
My-
and you're like, "Oh, it's gone."
Honey,
It's
honey,
gone
my
for me.
honey,
It's
my
gone from me.
superpowers returned. We have the Phoenix
Right.
again.
Yeah.
Right,
Feet
yeah.
Can you not just go back to the Goblin Queen, please? Can we go back to the Goblin
Yeah.
Queen for a night?
Can we
Why
see
did
the
we get
Goblin
rid of
By the
Queen
way-
more? You know,
Yeah,
everybody was complaining about the animation on Rogue. They did not realize the Goblin Queen was going to make an appearance.
That's true. We lost the butt crack, but we got the Goblin Queen.
Yeah.
That was a choice they made.
Goblin D's.
Okay, another bullet point I want to discuss, and this can just be a quick one. Cyclops, at the very end, the final battle, they used his Marvel versus Capcom giant super optic blast. Did you guys catch
Mhm.
that? How
Yep.
fucking great
Yes.
that was? I thought
Yeah.
that was
Yep.
wonderful.
Yep.
I really do. They've made him so tortured in this
Yeah,
episode.
and it
you know.
makes me kind of hate him.
I
Honestly,
think he's great, but he's definitely fallen on some.
I'm so tired of
times.
I'm so tired of the angsty Cyclops that's always just like
Yes,
like he
let
has
him be a
rest,
badass.
he has resting piss face.
Wow.
I do
Well,
like the
except for
scene
you
where
can't see his eyes.
what was the scene
Oh.
where Wolverine's like, I'm glad you're a leader, or this is why you're leader, or something like that. Where even Wolverine at one point's like, all right, yes, you're leader. Like you just demonstrate when he blasts the entire lawn of Sentinels. I think Wolverine's like, okay, I'm stepping off instead
Yeah.
of picking a fight with him.
Well,
That was pretty good.
so Star, you tell me how good you feel if your eyes were the windows to Punchland.
I would probably love it.
I'm not
Would
certain
you?
that it's not.
There are so many
Would
people
love
I would
Punchline.
punch. There are so many people I would
So many
punch.
Yeah.
So
That's why he
I
never
mean-
takes his glasses off.
Can I have this?
yeah,
How do
is that
we
on the
make this happen?
table?
Like,
So okay, here's another quick question. This is something that stuck with me, and maybe you guys can educate me because you're all smarter than I am. Typically, Wolverine has a faster healing factor without the adamantium. The adamantium is in fact poisonous. So for that to be ripped out of him, and then for him to still be like out of the game, catatonic on the sidelines, which was very poignant with Morph, which I thought was very, very cool. Wouldn't he have healed faster from
Well,
that?
I mean, how fast is fast? If you had
Yeah,
you
what
had
is
an
quick?
adamantium
Yeah.
skeleton and it was ripped out of your body, like I'm pretty sure I'm gonna need a minute.
He
Yeah,
healed up
and
really
I'd
fucking fast when they
argue-
put
At least half an
skeleton in
episode.
him.
And I'd
They-
argue that surviving that period proves that, you know, he's
No,
got a pretty
okay.
fast
Here's
healing rate.
the nerd argument. When they put the skeleton on him, he healed up pretty damn
Okay.
quick, and that was with the addition
Yeah.
of poison. You
How
remove the poison, you think it'd go
How
fast?
quick? Because I don't know the canon on how fast.
Listen, let me
Did-
get my
did-
timer
was he-
out. I'll
was it a
cut him
week?
and we'll
Was it-
time
Was
it.
it a week?
No, was it
that
a
he was-
week?
Yeah. But the
I mean,
difference
was
though,
it a day? Was it? I mean,
They
yeah.
didn't have time to strap the diaper on Hugh Jackman. He just raged out and left.
But in the cartoon,
right.
when he first gets a skeleton, they inject the adamantium into him, right? So it's definitely a process. Whereas in this case, in seconds, Magneto tears it through skin, flesh, and just rips it out. Totally
yeah, I mean,
different thing.
the guy's in tatters. The guy's
Yeah.
in tatters and needs to repair.
He was in a
they could've-
bathtub now, and he was just free balling and fucking got it ripped out of him right now. That's not cool.
Okay. So I'm being too critical about that. You guys
Being
are
very
okay.
I think it
I'm
makes
not
sense.
kidding.
He's in-
Calm
Taking a
down, sir.
I'm not kidding. I
Huh.
think there's a moment of like, hey guys, I'm gonna need 5. Give me
Yeah.
5.
Hey guys,
Like-
you good for a minute?
I
This
can't
hurts.
talk. I can't talk because my entire face is ripped apart from like,
And
But give
here's
me
my other
5.
question. Does Morph
TP's
know
over here.
whether or not bone claws exist? Because Morph could give us the answer we all want to know. He
Look,
just has to
Bone
switch on
Claw-
over.
look, Bone
Huh?
Claw's always ready.
No, I don't think
Does
so.
Morph
Bone Claw,
need
yeah.
to know if there's bone claws to mimic it? Is that part of his powers?
That's the thing.
Can he
It's Schrodinger's
modify?
claws.
Schrodinger's claws. Thank you.
Yeah. So
Thank
who
you.
knows? I don't know.
No,
Um,
I imagine GP sitting there watching this and fucking, you know, Magneto does his thing, rips
10
all the
minutes left in the
adamantium out, he
final episode.
passes out. Dude's like half dead, and he goes, "What a bitch!"
What a scrub.
No, I
Yeah.
was believing every bit of this until just now.
Wow.
I'm out. Yeah.
What a bitch!
Look, walk it off. Rub some dirt on
Yeah.
it. Come
Get
on.
your ass up,
Please.
Wolverine! You fucking jerk! God,
But-
Wolverine was
And
playing
what's the
Elden Ring
deal
and
with
he
the
used
bone
summons.
claws?
What the fuck is
You
this?
No, I'm
You know,
out.
I mean, here's my take on Morph, because honestly, Morph's power, I think, is actually like a little bit canon breaking. And so you have to forgive a lot of things. Like
Yeah.
if he can morph into the person and take on their abilities, like, does that mean that his vision absorbs like all of that person's abilities, like through vision? or I mean, because it's canon breaking, or does he have to touch him like Rogue, or
No.
does he have to like?
Right.
I think there's a communication with like identifying genetics. Here's the aesthetic part of that. If before Storm came back with her new outfit and hairdo, if Morph had morphed into Storm, Morph would have morphed into the Storm that they had last seen, right? Morph would
Sure.
have no idea about Storm's new stuff.
Sure.
So maybe that's the answer about the bone claws.
Because
Morph
I
would have
asked
no
because
idea.
like Mystique can customize what she does for her power. She can assume form. She
Different
can
thing.
get creative with it, right? Well, it's a different thing.
No. So here's the thing though with Mystique, she can replicate the look of anything, but she doesn't have adamantium claws when she becomes
Right.
Wolverine, which
Yes.
we can quote from
We saw that because
You know,
she
Okay.
did that to him and got her fucking claws cut off.
Hugh Jackman had to go.
my one takeaway from this
Right.
conversation, is we have given everybody that is nerding on this a nerd boner because this is the conversation that they all have.
Yeah.
Please
That's true.
bone away, you
Well,
nerds.
Maybe we
okay.
should
It is
wrap it up
gone
with
from me.
the stinger because
Yes.
that's pretty something to talk about. Because I'd like to talk about theories for next season before we
Gonna
finish up.
say,
Yes.
we've got
So,
like
the
15
show ends.
minutes.
Bastion's probably dead. The three different teams are thrown across time and space. We see ancient
Gambit's
Egypt with,
Gambit's
Insa
coming back.
Nerd, or Insabed Nerd. We see a couple of them show up with what is presumably where Cable was thrown into the far future as a child
Right.
after they lost him in the time stream with Bishop. And what's the third one? Or is it just those two?
I think it's
Well,
just
there's
the two of them, right?
Apocalypse.
In the
Uh-huh.
desert. in
There's
Egypt.
Apocalypse in the desert, and there's
Uh-huh.
Cable's future.
Oh,
I
and
think
then
it's
there's
just the
past
two.
Apocalypse before he becomes Apocalypse.
Right.
He's
Right.
got the flesh tone with the things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then there's the future one where he picks up the Gambit card. No, that's present day.
That's present
And
day.
he's
Just
got
say,
so
I
much
thought-
death.
I
Right.
thought they were
And
just
also-
on Dune, and he was the
So
No, you-
basically, we ended up getting a past, we ended up getting the current, and we ended up getting a future.
Yes, you're
Far
right.
future, yeah.
Yeah. So the
So-
idea is Apocalypse will raise up Gambit probably in the next season, and he's the new Horseman. And then you have him in
Horseman.
the past working with what is basically Apocalypse before he's evil, and in the future, it's when Apocalypse is won, and there's like a cult that Cable is part of. And yeah, it could be an interesting season. I just don't see room for Onslaught in that storyline. I just think it's gonna be Apocalypse through the entire thing. I don't
I
know.
want Christopher Walken
Onslaught doesn't have to
show
take
up
up
in
too
the
much
desert.
time. That's
That would
one
be
thing the
great.
show showed us is you can get something condensed. It'd be cool if Onslaught paid off in some sort of way, but I don't know that they'll spend too much time on it. But I think you don't set up the finale the way Charles and Magneto went through it without doing Onslaught.
True.
Yeah.
Okay.
I agree.
Yeah.
If not, maybe a stinger at the end of the second season.
There you go.
And bring him
Sure,
in for
set
the
it up
third.
even more. That's fine.
Exactly. That's what I
Yeah.
think.
But
Because everybody's
I
going to be focused on Apocalypse for the first
Yeah.
half of that.
I kind of hope they pick a big bad and let us ride that train for the majority of the season. I hope they shift focus away from Magneto for a while. They did him so well in the first season. I would be okay if they picked up on somebody else. Let Cyclops be an leader. You know what I mean? Like, huh?
An unfettered leader.
Yeah, let him just do his thing and come into his own. Anyway, but that's
Yeah.
me. I'm up for whatever they got planned.
Sure.
Looking
I
forward to it
think
either
the-
way.
Yeah, I think the proof is that this if it has the same quality in season 2, it's going to be well worth it.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah, without a doubt. And I don't know when season 2 is coming out, but I hope it's not next year. I hope it's the end of this year.
2026.
I'm a
Yeah.
very impatient person.
Yeah, let's not severance this.
Yeah, that's not Severances. I need to go back and finish
Segued.
Severance, by the way.
Well,
Segued.
wait until season 2 comes out. Trust me, that is one of the worst cliffhangers I have ever seen.
Well, okay. Also, is the next season of X-Men 97 going to be X-Men 98 or X-Men 97 season 2, or just
If they have
X-Men
any
season-
balls, they'll make it 98 and keep it going. Because there's
would
no
hope
way they
so.
can put all that adventure in one fucking year. There's no way. They
Yeah.
have to change it every time.
Okay.
Yeah.
So all in all, final impressions. I loved it. 9.2 out of 10.
I would give it a solid 9.
Okay.
8.75. only
Okay.
because episode 4 and
Uh-huh.
3 almost lost me.
Oh,
That's it.
3 was the horror episode, and I was
Yeah.
fucking full in.
Yeah.
But like I'm
But
not a horror
horror,
guy,
yeah.
so
Four is a walk away. I could watch the season and just skip it.
I give it 4 adamantium claws out of 6.
Okay.
If we didn't have to see Charles up in fucking space with his space weefoo, I could have done without any of that shit. I really could have. I was just like, what in the hell is this episode? You just had one of the most dramatic endings to like mutant kind on the island. Magneto's possibly dead. Gambit sacrificed his life. Oh, now we're in space talking with our space honey. And I've got dockers that are too stiff. I could not ride along with that. And then you come back down and then it gets back kick ass. And again, it was just such a weird, like I'd take the Mojo episode, even though that one was totally like weird and off kilter over that one, because at least there was some action and there was Mojo and Jubilee was coming into her own and whatever with Sunspot and all that shit. But then like Charles in space. It's silly. I didn't care for it at all.
But they have the show outside of X-Men though, because that's where Cyclops' dad is, isn't he? Isn't he one of those space people? I can't remember what the name is. Sunjammers, I think is what they're called.
Something like
His
that,
dad is something weird from space,
pirate.
like a Guardians of the Galaxy type of situation. So that's where that comes from.
Sunjammer.
I think that's what it is.
Is that what it is? It sounds like a sailboat.
And
Well,
then
he's jamming all the
Can we
magnetic
be on the
rays.
Sunjammer, Jake?
He's jamming all the magnetic rays from the sun.
I'll
Charles.
fucking check my mind pals. Don't you fucking watch?
No, it's in there. I'm sure for sure that's what it is. It sounds like a Sunjammer.
sounds like something from it, yeah. Which also sounds like a child's beverage that comes in a silver pouch.
Yeah.
Sunjammers.
So
like a
his
Capri
dad's
Sun, but
name
it's a Sunjammer.
is Corsair, Christopher
Corsair,
Summers.
yeah.
And does it say the name? Please say the name of the team for fuck's sakes. Starjammers. Starjammers.
You were way off,
Jammers. Well,
and I will never forgive you.
Okay, what was he?
sun is a star.
Is the sun not a
This will be
star?
remembered.
I mean, yeah.
What are we,
Oh,
monsters?
okay.
Of course the sun is a star. He's
Yeah,
Corsair.
but the sun is a very specific star. These guys will jam multiple stars as they see fit.
You know what?
These guys are
You know what,
jamming
GP?
everything.
He gets around
You
the
know what?
stars, yeah.
You know what,
Don't
GP?
forget your jammies.
Every star is a very specific star.
Your logic is sound.
There's
So I
There-
apologize.
one star
I retract.
Where
Well
Corsair
done.
brought his
Bauer-
seamen.
Okay.
Wow.
Right. Real quick.
Hereby
anybody
forever
wanna-
known as the jammers.
Just colloquially, we're the jammers.
The jammy
They're
jammers.
just the jammers.
The
The
jams.
jammy jammers. The jams.
Not to be conserved with our competitors, the preserves. Okay.
Yes.
So let's go around, tell everybody what you're up to, where they can find you. Sick Jake, what's up?
He's jamming.
I'm right here. I've been playing a lot of Alan Wake. Chard and I are going to do some episodes on Alan Wake in the very near future. That game is great. I should have played it years ago. Apologies for my voice. I am very, very sick, but hopefully I feel better next week.
Sick of
Your
us.
voice
What he's
sick
saying.
is still better than my sexiest voice at any point in my life.
He's right.
Except I didn't sneeze.
Yeah.
The sneeze is definitely not sexy. Ask my wife.
Mr. Sinistar, what you up to? Where can people find you?
So I've been doing the DJ thing. I now have a second Twitch account, DJ Spinistar. This guy, Chard, actually gave me the name. So I went ahead and created a Twitch account. I just got affiliate on that account, so come hang out.
Congratulations.
Thank you. And so yeah, I do currently I'm doing Mondays and Tuesdays, although it'll probably become just Tuesdays. 6:30 Mountain Time.
Okay. If I show up, could you commit to doing a full set of Tears for Fears?
I could do at least a set of Tears for Fears. I don't know what a full set is. We can work on definitions. But if you show up, I will do You Were Working as a Waitress at a
Made
cocktail
of
bar.
stone. Made of stone. Okay. Love it. I love it. I love the DJ Spinistar. I'll pop over. And then Mr. Chardmonk, where are you at? Where
I'm actually going to change my name to Chinchilla Duke to go with the animal and the royalty.
Animal.
Bring it back.
Yeah,
so
full circle.
It's Chinchilla Duke at twitch.tv. No, we're gonna do Elden Ring. I've been playing Elden Ring, and we're gonna get back into that for the Erdtree DLC. And then, in the spirit of the MCU, there is this little known thing that's becoming a thing that's called the RCU, which is the Remedy Connected Universe. That's what you means. So it's basically Alan Wake, Control, Quantum Break all are getting married together. And then they released a DLC recently in Alan Wake 2 that has the character Jesse Faden from Control as one of the playable characters, as well as the main character from Quantum Break. So there's a whole how do you do. I'm interested to see what the lore is and how it goes. So we're going to go down that rabbit hole once we're done with Erd Tree. And we're going to do Alan Wake, Quantum Break, Control, Quantum Break 2, or Alan Wake 2, and DLCs that go with it. I have played Alan Wake in the past. I didn't stream it. I played it quietly to myself like Jake's doing right now. So I already know like what's going on with that, but I want to take everybody along with me for the ride. So that is the plan. So that's what I got coming up here in the near future. It'll probably change though, because you know me, I cannot hold to any of my promises. Just ask my wife. The power is gone from me.
Yeah. The power is gone from me. Nice. Well done. And I'm GP for Press B to Cancel. You can pretty much find me here. Yeah, check us out anywhere you find your podcast, Press B to Cancel. Thank you, everybody, for playing along as this rather admittedly homogenous group of guys talked about things that were very much outside of our scope and realm. We appreciate any grace for anything we may have mislabeled, but hopefully you understand our hearts were in the right supportive places. So yeah, once again, we are Press B to Cancel. Remember it.